Um, Alright, how are you guys? This is Xia Taptara. Today I am going to show you how to draw easy portrait, right? So I'm going to show you the rough line drawn, and then I'm going to break it down to you guys how my thinking process and how I draw. Along with the process of what I'm drawing, I'm going to try to put the commentary and as much as I can for you to understand. And if you have any question or you want to say hi, then just feel free to comment down below and I will get right back to all of you. All right. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Alright guys, this is going to be the part where I break down the drawing, and usually on a typical portrait or a typical character design that I usually do, I break it down into pretty close to a real proportion, which is if I draw a circular shape, it should like end up around on top of the mouth. Suppose it's a circular shape. I'm not doing a very good job there. Then I will add a mandible, which is down here. Or if you are drawing a skull, it should be, let me add some of this. The skull should be here, right? And that will be your nose. That will be your eye socket, where that might be. And then this will be your lower mandible jaw. And that will have the part that plane changing from there. So you have this plane and that plane. So usually the face starts to turn around right after, a bit after the end of your eye socket. Usually this part could have also the part that dent in, and this would be the eye socket, right? That'll be your nose. And depends, some people have teeth coming out, or some people are going in or straight down. So wherever their genetic codes are made up. So anyways, so that's where the circular shape's coming from. And then the mandible, which is the lower part of the jaw, is coming from. So, but simply just sort of think of it like that. And if you want to dive deep down into more of the portrait tips and technique, I have a video on that also, so you can kind of go check that out if you want to. It's on my channel. All right, so once you have that, the next part is going to be measuring this whole thing, right? You don't have to draw to measure it. Just use your eyes to kind of eyeball it and split this height in half. And that's where your eyes are going to be. So it depends on how tall your eye would be. Some can be taller than the other. And this should be a pretty typical proportion of the people, right? So now to find the nose, which is usually we're just going to draw just the tip of the nose. Unless you have a deep eye socket, you could draw that. But since I'm doing the Asian feature, which is slightly the same proportion are the same, but where you would emphasize the shadow and the light would be slightly different. So the nose, the bottom of the nose would be here, right? And this I would kind of measure it halfway down there. So this would be split into half, and this would be 1/4, right? That would be easier to remember. So you don't have to, like, it might be, you know, a little bit off and on. Not off and on, a little bit off, or sometimes a little lower, sometimes a little higher. You can move it around as you design your character, because some of the character, if you stylize them, you might want to shorten the nose, or if they're babies, you want to make everything closer to the middle, and the face would be a little rounder. And then the lips, usually halfway, not more than halfway. I should say closer to the nose is better, right? But this is 1/8, so that's even easier to remember. And then it shouldn't go all the way down to the chin, but sometimes it could happen. You design like sort of a stylized character or cartoon. Sometimes you see a cartoon or stylized character right there, like this. They put the eyes all the way up and then the nose all the way out, and that's how they exaggerate and accentuate, right? So, but it's pretty useful to know like a real proportion. So you don't like get stuck into that realm of, in my opinion, you don't get stuck in just the stylized area, right? So in here you have the eyes all the way up. So you can also do that with this also, but to know the real proportion is way better, so you can remember and kind of move it around, right? So sometimes when you see the character like this, oh, okay, they exaggerate, or they doing a accentuation of the shape, and some of the character might have a big eyes, which is not wrong. I don't see anything wrong with tweaking or emphasizing the proportion of like the Disney character or the anime or whatever. As long as they are appealing, as long as they are good drawing, then they are good drawing. So anyways, this is pretty much about it. Oh, and your hairline depends on wherever it is, and like I said, this can move up and down, depends, right? The eyes can move up lower if you have a different character that have the eyes kind of low like this, and then might have the hair there, then the nose, and the lips. It might have, kind of pointy chin or whatever type of character you make. You can move these object or these feature around to fit your needs. All right, so I hope that kind of makes sense. And the length of the neck, it varies. That depends on your pretty much on your genetic makeup. Some people have longer necks, some people have shorter necks, but the most important thing is how the neck is connected to the body. So usually you have like tendon here, right? But just think of it as like you have the cylinder here, and you have ... something that's sticking out from your collarbone. So that's why you see a lot of drawing that would have like, okay, I'm gonna draw this guy here, there, collarbone. So that would be the correct way to draw the neck. So they're not just sticking out from the skin. So you have actually the rib cage here, collarbone here, right? And the neck sticking from the spine. So the neck would be more connected to the back, and your collarbone is here, and this is your scapular, and that's your rib cage, and the neck's coming from here, and that's where the base of your skull is. So anyways, all right, I hope that clears some things up if you guys are like, if a lot of you are inexperienced and you're watching this video. So well, let's get started. I looked at the clips again, and it was actually about a little over 10 minutes, so it's not that. In this video, I use iPad and Procreate to record the drawing or to draw and sketch this portrait. But you can use traditional medium stuff like pen and pencil. This is just easier for me to record this screen, and on the day-to-day basis that I can easier present to you guys. It's a lot harder to record the paper and pencil, and plus my hand would be blocking the image anyway, so this is way better. All right, so I'm just gonna pick the one of the brush that I have. I forgot what it's called, some similar to square brush. I'm just starting with the shape of the head, so with the egg shape basically, and I just kind of skip to the egg shape before I draw the circular shape with the mandible jaw, because I just kind of get the measurement of that similar shape onto the egg shape, but it's not actually an egg shape, it's just a sphere shape and the mandible jaw. Now I am trying to establish the eye level, which is a bit too high. Just trying to get it a little lower, and usually I'll set it up in the middle, but it depends on where I want this character to eyes to locate. Like I explained earlier, you can move it up and down, but in general, the rule of thumbs is to kind of like midway of the height from the top of the head to the bottom of the head, and then where I put the bottom of the nose is halfway in between the eye lines and the chin line basically. But now is time to work over on those shapes that I put down and trying to get the eyes and the eyebrows. Okay, one note over here: if you try to draw an Asian feature a lot of time, but not all the time, the gap in between the eyebrows and the upper eyelid are a lot wider than if you were to draw a Middle Eastern person or a person or European person, because of the eye socket is shallow, so they have the space kind of expanded out. But if you draw a person with the deeper eye socket, usually the eyebrows will come down to right about the upper eyelid. Like if you look at Benedict Cumberbatch, for example, right? So give it some space in between the eyebrows and the eyes, and I'm just gonna make the eye smaller and not a lot of space for the upper eyelid to give it form or to cast a shadow. But we're gonna emphasize on the lower eyelid, which a lot of time it catches the shadow on the East Asian feature especially. So now I'm trying to add the hairline and the neck, right? And now I got like the button nose basically and the bigger lips. So I'm trying to add the big thick lips just to add those cute appeal or appeal to make it a little more appealing, right? Because usually you see the character in Disney or in certain type of cartoon like Warner Brothers and those things that have the lips on the female character, but you don't usually see it on the Asian drawing culture in regular manga. Usually they just draw the line for the lips, but in this one I'm just kind of mixing in between, and I'm trying to get stylized but not too realistic. But usually I tend to go a little bit overboard, and because I do a lot of live drawing, so I kind of sometimes I don't think it looks real, but people think it looks a little too real. It's not stylized at all. So that's when I look at it, it was like it's not even real. It doesn't even look good. All right, now I'm trying to kind of add a little bit of shading on the hair, but I decided, well, maybe I'll just leave it to the line work. And at this point, I haven't really tried the iPad, I mean the HB pencil brush on the Procreate. And actually, after I got this really like rough construction line, then I make another layer on top and start using the HB pencil. Then it's actually worked out pretty well. So, and as you can see here, I'm just kind of contemplating on the brush choice. Maybe I'll use, then I decided to might as well let's just try the HB pencil. And I haven't actually used that pencil before, so this is my first trial, and it's turned out pretty well. And it's a bit it's a lot smoother than the previous, the other pencil that I used, and I didn't really like it. I thought it's got a cool name, and I forgot what the name was. So I use it. But the HB is pretty good. I haven't tried a 2B yet because it might be a little too dark, and I might not like it. Because I like it kind of lighter. Unless I'm doing like a charcoal drawing, then I want it to go really dark because I want the light and shadow and the contrast. So now I'm slowly drawing around the eyes area. And in this tutorial, you see me rotating the canvas quite a bit because that's how I actually draw in real life. So I just rotate the sketchbook. And the reason I rotate, or the reason a lot of people are rotating, is so that some arc on your elbow. When you draw, usually they'll recommend you to draw with your whole arm. So using your shoulder with your elbow. So that's to anchor point, right? But then the technology comes along, and you have like the smaller Wacom tablet and the smaller pad. Then you have to adapt to the technique, so you kind of use your elbow instead of your whole arm, because the whole arm is for the bigger pad when you use in the studio or the live drawing session or something, when you have a bigger pad. So now I'm rotating and trying to get a little smoother line. You get a smoother line that way, just kind of like use a compass, right? So you kind of anchor with the elbow, and you just make those lines. You can make those practice when you pin your anchor at one point and just rotating your pencil, or make the line along with it, so you get a really nice curve. Just it is a pretty good technique, and it can get your line pretty smooth and consistent. So now we got the eyes, and what I'm focusing on, basically not a lot of detail. I tend to use if I draw a face, either male or female, usually I'll just focus on where I want what I want the shape to be, and where I want each feature to locate it when I'm designing something. And a lot of time I will use multiple reference, and sometimes I might not at all. So it depends. But if I'm drawing the facial feature that I haven't seen before, then I might have a couple reference, or a few, to look at. Okay, what's the eye look like, or what's the nose look like, or what the lips, what type of lips do I want? Or I might just use one reference and just changing something so that it would fit the characteristic of the character that I want. But if I'm doing a study, then I might as well use just one, and it depends on what type of study you want. If you're doing a line study, or doing the likeness study, then you might want to get, that's a good practice too, because you have to get the position of, or the location of each feature to as close as you want. Or sometimes you can do lighting practice, or light and shadow practice, or grayscale practice, right? So you get the accurate shape and all that. So it's pretty similar to live drawing. It depends on the reference that you pick. All right, so now, by the time I look at it, it's almost done. I decided to add a little bit of braids on her hair. And at this point, I kind of lowered the opacity on the construction line a little bit. And now I am focusing on the hair, I think. All right, and now I'm adding a little bit of smaller line or thinner line to give it. So the thick and thin line are pretty important also. Like if you look at around the eyes, those are gonna have thicker lines, and then there's line on the side of the nose, which is thinner than the line around the nose, or the line in the mid section of your on top of her nostril. Two lines are pretty slim in compared to the line on the side. The line on the side are slimmer than the line on the bottom. And the lips, the line on the mouth is thicker than the edge of her lips. So the more dominant feature, or the more like the mouth crease, are more important than the actual line around the lips. And when you put the thicker lines, emphasize the priority of the section, right? So just kind of like when you draw, like I'm drawing hair right now, so your priority would be the thicker line outside, or the thicker line on the clumps of hair, on the shape of the clumps of hair. So those thicker lines represent the bigger shape, and then the finer line would represent what is inside that shape, which is more detail, right? So you don't want to put too many of those. You just want to be able to smartly pick and choose which to leave out and which to put in. And those are the hardest thing that I find, as as when I begin to, or start drawing, or doing a live drawing. And when I talk to the people who came before me, or the senior, my boss, or back in the day, they always said it's not the stuff that you're putting into your drawing. It's more important is the stuff that you're taking out. So, or stuff that you don't draw. And to leave it a good space, and to decide which line to put in. And I can't really explain that in steps. So you're gonna have to kind of experiment and figure out which would work or which would not work. And sometimes if you put too many lines on the shadow on the side, usually I'll just rely. My tip is to rely on, if you want to put more finer line, then find a reason. Like if it's in the shadow, then if there's a reason for it. If there's no reason for it, and you just put it in there for the hell of adding more detail, then no. And the best way is to squint your eyes and to see if you see, like if you draw a nose, don't think of it as you have to, as you draw a nose. Just draw what you see, or draw what needs to be there. Usually it would just be the bottom and the side, right? You don't need to draw the whole line alongside the nose, and that would just easy read, and it would be a lot cleaner. And that's just my personal opinion. And now I don't think I'm trying to add some oriental brushstroke, but eventually I take it out because I didn't need it, and it's on a separate layer. So that's what good about digital drawing too, because it's you can always take the stuff out. So I didn't add this part in. Anyway, so I'm just gonna end it here. And if you have any comment or question, post them down below. I'll get to all of you. Don't forget to click like. That would help me pretty much. And also, if you want a longer tutorial, just go to the link down below the video. You see a bunch of good stuff. All right.